Justin Bieber was on tour in Manchester at the time.
Oh, wow.
Store locked out because he came into the store
Oh,
to
no way.
buy a jacket, which is pretty cool. Growing up, Bieber was obviously very big. And I was like a bit fanboy, and I felt like, yeah, that's Bieber. Because I had that.
Yeah.
Oh, like, I just him over. He bought this Idris Elba jacket, which was like 500 quid. He walked out and they opened the store again. But for about half an hour, 40 minutes, it was just him, a few of his guys they had. And we were just like, best behavior. Oh, I don't know.
With a big celeb coming in. Hello, listeners, watchers, fans, and subscribers, and welcome back to another chapter of the SDR DiscoCall Show. This show is about the world of sales, predominantly around tech sales, and there's a function called sales development, which is at the beginning of a sales cycle. And within this job, we're looking to get prospects interested in what we sell and get them into the actual sales cycle journey. And I think it's one of the toughest parts of sales, in my own opinion. And what I love to do is go find really interesting and cool people from across the globe that work in this industry to figure out, how did they get into this industry? How did they get into the role? What lessons have been learned to either inspire you to come into this industry, or if you're already working in this industry, to get a bit of perspective as to what is it like for other people. And my name is Bhuiyan, your host. A big ask is, if you're listening to this in your local podcast platform, do us a massive favor and make sure that you give the podcast a rating. It helps us get our message out to more people. And similarly, if you're listening to this or watching this on our YouTube channel, to help out with the algorithm, make sure that you give us a like, comment, and subscribe down below, because you're telling the algorithm this is good content. And again, it will help get our message out there. So with the guest that we've got on today, this is somebody that I've known online for a little while. And we actually met back on the Cold Call Power Hour hosted by my sales coach. And this is an individual that when I used to see him come through, used to bring a smile to my face. And we've actually figured out that we've got some similarities when it comes to kids and the ideas of how we want to be as dads. So as another sales dad bringing on to show, I wanted to introduce Connor Grimes. How you doing today, Connor?
Hey, Neil. Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. I'm looking forward to this chat. I've been excited. I've listened to your calls a lot. I've listened to the podcast, so yeah, I'm eager to become a thought.
Love it, and welcome aboard, Connor. So, Connor, could you tell us whereabouts in the world are you based? What is your role, and what company do you work for, Connor?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually based in Stoke-on-Trent, glorious part of the Midlands. I actually work for a business called Willow. We're a candidate screening platform specifically designed to cut recruitment time in half, ideally for like high volume recruitment, usually selling to like HR, talent leaders predominantly.
Love that. And thank you so much for setting the scene there, Connor. And Connor, as a question that I like to ask with all of our guests, like outside of sales, what things do you like to get up to? What are your passions, hobbies, and interests, mate?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a dad. So most of the time gets taken to spend with my kids. We're 5 and 3, definitely a handful. Big football fan. Also play volleyball as well. Yeah. But most of the time is either spent watching Arsenal, because we have problems there. Enjoying volleyball, playing with the kids, and obviously me and my fiance as well. We go up some nice walks and food and that. But yeah, that's kind of me.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So if I get that right, so you're based in the Midlands and you're an Arsenal Gooner fan, is that right?
Yeah, glory unto that, aren't I? First game I ever watched, my dad was, he's a big Leeds fan, and my granddad were. They told me they wanted me to watch Leeds like them. First game, Leeds versus Arsenal about 25 years ago. And Arsenal, the team in red, 4-0 that day. So I then asked him and my granddad, I want an Arsenal kit for Christmas. I still have a lot of love for Leeds, but yeah, I think since then, Ted, he must have about 6 Arsenal kits now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's good.
Thank you very much. I'll be totally honest with you, Connor. I'm not really a football man per se, but I'm what we call an honorary Gooner or Arsenal supporter. The reason for that is when I was growing up in my teens and I was working at my local Pizza Hut, all of my mates were Arsenal fans, and the only reason we went to the pub, I went to play pool, hang out with my mates, but it was for them to watch Arsenal games. So I kind of became an honorary gooner as well. So there we go. Cool. So everybody's learned a little bit something about Neil as well. But at this point of the show, what we like to do is go to our guest's LinkedIn profile to kind of figure out like what was their story. So with Connor, his LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes in the podcast if you scroll down on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find it in the YouTube description. So with Connor's LinkedIn, if you want to connect with him, reach out to any of the topics that we've spoken about today, or perhaps pick his brain on things that he's gone through, feel free to reach out. But Connor, if we go like way back in the day, you've had a colorful career working in different companies and obviously with industries as well. And if we look way back in the day, I think you've worked in the likes of retail, you've worked in like hospitality as well. But you've worked at Superdry, you've been a restaurant and bar manager, you worked at Radius, you worked at Finley James, who I'm familiar with in the world of recruitment. You've worked at Thrive, Q, and most for the past year and a half, you've worked down at Willow as well. So Connor, we'd love to know, like, what is your story, dude? Like, how did you get into sales? Where did it all begin? And tell us more.
Well, Neil, my dad was a sales director, account director at BT for a very long time. And he actually met my mum when he used to work at Xerox.
The printer people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That when, my dad always provided for myself and my sister. We used to go on family holidays all the time. He had a nice house. He drove nice cars. I was thinking, well, that sounds an interesting career. Like, and he didn't go to university. So I thought, let's see how do I get into that? But before all that, like you saw, I started at Superdry and at hospitality. I just passed my driving test. So I would have been about 17 years old. My dad was like, you've got a car, you need to run it now. So I became a pot washer at the local pub, which, isn't the most glamorous, but it's basic. Yeah. And it's funny now looking back, like, I was on like £5 an hour. That was literally just beer money and fuel money, doing the hours. And then I turned 18 and then I became a barman, which was a lot more fun, I think. You get a bit more social side than being hide away in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that. And to be fair, there's times when you've had like a heavy day or a heavy week or month in sales, like when you work remotely all the time, you don't get to have that sort of collaboration or just like, team spirit, go like, socialize and that. And like when I was, I had some happy memories working at the bar and restaurants. I worked some weddings as well at Slater's. And then when I moved away to university, I got a store temp job at Superdry. God, that was a different experience in itself.
Yeah. Tell us more, mate. What was different?
It was exciting and very interesting. The interview process was quite funny, actually. We had to do like a styling case study. We got paired up there was like an assessment day for about 10 people. They were going to hire 2. Funny enough, I actually got hired, which is pretty cool. I got paired with a girl who was doing fashion design at a degree. So I thought, I'm quite lucky here that I've been paired with you. So then I was like, you do the styling and I'll present it. Like I can do presenting. I'm fine with that. And it worked really well. We had to staff for like a 40-year-old man who was a dad and goes out and about. And Superdry, you kind of know what their clothes are like. They are very much outdoorsy as well, but quite comfortable as well. And then so I got the job, and then a couple of months in, Justin Bieber was on tour in Manchester at the time.
Wow.
Door locked out because he came into the store.
No way.
Hire jacket, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
At that time, growing up, Bieber was obviously very big. And I was like, a bit fanboy. And I was like, but yeah, that's Biebs.
That's Biebs.
No, I was like, I just him over. He bought this Idris Elba jacket, which was like £500. Nice jacket, to be honest. Just then he walked out and then they opened the store again. But for about half an hour, 40 minutes, it was just him, a few of his guys they had. And we were just like, best behavior, just at normal. So at normal.
With a big celeb coming in, yeah.
Biggest person in the world right now. But it was such a cool experience. But then, and then unfortunately got, because it was Christmas temp, I also kind of got fired from that role because they had some uplifters in the Trafford Centre. Few protocols that you got to act and do. I just instantly thought, I was like, there's this kid running out with about £400 bit of kit. Sounds chase him. So just rugby tackled the guy. That's apparently not what you're meant to do. Shock horror. I mean, I kind of got a well done for, retrieving the stock, but.
So you got it back?
Got it back.
Yeah.
a lot of trouble because it was like, what are you doing? You can't just
Yeah.
it's customers. I was not a customer. It's a thief, really. But
Yeah. No, definitely, mate. I think that was like you said. So you're working in that shop. You're with your partner. Like you're doing like all the design element with them, and then you get this massive celeb come in, and like you said, you had to act normal. Like you said, this was like a temp sort of role, but then seeing Biebs and seeing a big celeb come in and saying, all right, we need to act prim and proper and just as if he's nobody, but like support the guy. But they shut down the shop. But then that's a bit sad. Like, you showed your loyalty to the shop by chasing a thief and getting the stock back. And they're like, so what? They just cut you?
I got invited into a meeting like the day or so after, like the next time I was on shift, and like rear manager of like the Northwest came, and someone from London came up and spoke to us, and like, yeah, kind of like, it's just, that's not okay.
Oh, what was going through your mind as a young kid of like, wait, but I just saved you like £400 worth of gear?
I think I was 19 or 20 years old at the time. So yeah, it's about nine years ago now. And I was just kind of like, I thought it's the right thing to do. Like, if the beepers haven't gone off, the guys have clearly done it very well. They've stole this. But, like, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
I mean, I only worked like 20 hours a week, and it was really hard to get to because I lived in the city centre as a student, and I had to get to Trafford Centre, which I don't know if you know Manchester that well, Neil. It's a bloody pain to get to Trafford Centre from the city centre.
I haven't been, but funny enough, I'm actually going to Manchester in about 2 weeks for like some sales training bits. So it's going to be, because I've actually got family in Manchester that I haven't spoken to in about 30 odd years. But yes, I'll find out because I wanted to do a bit of shopping because I've been told like the Christmas markets around Manchester are kind of elite, right?
Yeah. The Manchester markets are unbelievable. And we're actually going out with the kids next weekend. And then we've got our Christmas work to do in Manchester, which I'm sure we'll end up at the markets after anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city centre's great. So I wish I kind of, in hindsight, if I knew my bearings of Manchester before moving the city for uni, I would have thought I'd job the Arndale, because then it's just one bus straight to the city centre. Well, getting to Trafford Centre at 5:00 during rush hours, it was a disaster. It was a good experience anyway. I mean, I met Justin Bieber, so it's pretty cool. And then after finishing university, I was kind of like, well, what do I want to do? I don't want to get into sales. I mean, I was scared shitless of answering the phone. I mean, if ever the home phone rang and it was like my auntie ringing or someone asking for my mum and dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then just put the phone down. And my mum and dad would be like, oh, who rang? Oh, I forgot actually. Well, I still want to take the message, and I was thinking, what the hell, like? And my dad was like, well, this is like sales. You've got to get better at it.
It must have been weird though, like having two parents that like worked within that industry, and then they're looking at their kid like, so what's going on?
Yeah, surely must be hereditary. You must get. Then it was an absolute car crash. But then I got a job at UK Fuels Radius, which is what they all are. But actually, it was under like their Esso arm at the time, which is like a different brand, but it's all under the same group. And for the first few months, I was like a sales coordinator, really much just lead generation, just calling a list of people. How do you buy fuel? Do you have fuel cars? Blah, blah. And it'd be a bloody hairdresser. It'd be a vet. They don't need fuel cars. They're not out on the road all the time.
Do you know what is so strange, Connor? So I can't mention their name, but I've recently started working with a sales rep, like on one-to-one coaching. And they've gone through different sales roles, and we caught up the other week and they said, no, so I've started working at a company, again, can't mention them, but I'm selling fuel cards and I need some help. And I kind of said to them, I was like, this is not my world. I sell in tech, I help with software, but I've never done in fuel cards. And this person was saying to me, it's a completely different world. So they're having to phone businesses and she said to me, like, what advice would you give? And I would just say, like, who are your main customers? She said, it can be anybody with a car. I was like, okay, well, that really narrows it down, right? But I said, it's more businesses, right? And she was like, yeah. But I had to kind of use a bit of chat GPT, and it was like, we look for cars that have fleets, right? We have people that have their teams going out onto the road. And I basically had to build a mini sales process and structure, but you've lived in that world. Could I just ask, for somebody, she had sold software before, now she's selling this. What kind of tips would you give for that person that might be listening to this?
For that, I think it's definitely tenacity and instantly go after. Like what I would already tell my if I started now, I was there for a good 3 or 4 years, so I knew I learned from the guys that were doing it before me. Go after like application decisions on the Gov website. Everyone that's applied for a voter license, HGV license, Because HGV, that takes a minimum of 200 litres of fuel every time. So that's 200, 300 quid every time they're filling up their HGV. If you got a fuel card and you can save them 20, 30p a litre, it's a no-brainer for them. You call them straight away. These are brand new businesses. So they've not been called by everyone else already. They may not have a fuel card. And you've got about 30 leads that come in every week that are new people. Ring. And straight away you get through to the owner, because it's always either the owner or the transfer manager that you get hold of. There's sometimes sole traders, sometimes there might be limited businesses, but straight away you're in there. And it's just so quick. Like, Neil, how are you currently buying your fuel right now? If they say they get it delivered into their site or they're bunkering the site, okay, well, that's fine. We can't actually help you right now. But Neil, do you ever find yourselves short of fuel on the way back? Do you need to fill up sometimes on the way? Oh, yeah, I need a credit card. Okay, well, this will help you save your money there. That's really the sort of track that it's engraved into my team that I managed.
Yeah.
It just, you close about 2 or 3 deals a day just by that, but it was so price driven. It's such like, but it's just, that's what it is. Like, but that'd be what I'd say to the, if she's listening, definitely that.
Love that, mate. So we've just stepped back in a bit of time, and definitely when I have my next coaching session with that person, I'm like, right, I've got some advice from you, from somebody that actually did it and managed teams as well. So you was living that sales life, and, you know, I was looking at your LinkedIn where you can see like you hit good, really, like you overachieved on targets, mate, and you had some really impressive numbers and stats. So would you say that was kind of like your first real taste of sales?
Yeah, my first real taste of success. Like, I mean, them first 3 months where, like, you can see I was just doing lead generation, I got really close with some of the guys that were like in top performers. I'm still really good friends with them now, but they've gone on to do different stuff as well. And they were like, Connor, do not call these people. Like, they're just setting you up to fail. Call logistic, call haulage firms, delivery, DPD, call that sort of stuff. Like, yes. So I was like, yes, like, absolutely do it. And they gave me some of their old accounts that had obviously kind of gone dry and that they weren't using anymore. It's like, if you want a quick win, I want you in the big team now. Don't stay in there, because I was on like 16, I think I was on 15 grand as my base salary back then. And it's getting like no commission, unless obviously I think I generated like 20 leads a month, which was pretty easy to do, but it was capped at like 250 quid. But back then I lived at home with mum and dad. I had no commitments, so that was fine. That's enough beer money in a car. I can get a few nice clothes and that here and there. But then when I kind of, like you saw there, like it started to hit target, it was because work just asked for advice from people that are doing it. Like the ones, like the HR a lot, they were lovely people, but they were just kind of getting bums on seats. And it was a high attrition rate because they weren't being all told. What I luckily got told from my close friends, like, you need to go after these, mate, or you're not going to do it. And that was, like first real taste success, like getting some nice commission in. Like I was kind of getting like $1,000 to $2,000 commission every month. And it was like, bloody hell, this is mint. Like going on nice holidays and that. I went to the Caribbean that year. Thought, why not? Let's just
bloody hell. So you were kind of seeing the life that you saw mum and dad doing with like the nice cars, and like, okay, Connor's actually doing it. Cool. So then what happened?
I got promoted to become like a team lead, pod lead, which was interesting because I'm not going to say any names, but it was a very Wolf of Wall Street kind of lads doing coke in the cars at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Literally had like our group chat that would be sharing KPIs and numbers. And then one lad would share a screenshot of what his dealer sent his offer for the week. So you can't share this and that.
Bloody hell.
Leading this pod, and it was just so difficult to have that, that sort of like, when you get back to business, or this is not a work chat like this.
Yeah.
Don't care what you do outside of work. Don't do it during your lunch hours and that. It was dead difficult. And it was I think that tailed off around the COVID time during lockdown. And at the time, Ted had just been born. So my eldest, he was born December of 2019. So then a few months later, obviously we went to lockdown, and I'd never worked from home before. I'd never had that, like, and I tried it for a bit, and I was like, God, this is really hard. I kind of wanted to be, I was just at home with like Molly, who was on maternity leave. We had Ted, who was 4 months old, and he just, it's easy just to sort of sit back and just chill, cuddle, and just around and that. So I then made the decision to work in the office. Like, we made the office very much like, personal space and all that bubble and that. It It looked terrifying. If you looked at it now, it'd be like full on, like, I forgot what was the word they used to call it? Quarantine. It was like full quarantine phase. It looked vile. Like, everyone was in like bloody hazmat suits. It was ridiculous.
Blimey.
But I just felt like I couldn't do the cold calling and the call time and all that work at home because I didn't have that space. Like, we lived in a small flat. It was a lovely little space, but it wasn't a work from home space. It wasn't like, it never needed to be that. And then I luckily got promoted because of just performance wise, and just spoke to my manager. I was like, I don't really want to lead this team anymore. I want to go do the field stuff and like, go after fleets and like tender process and that, which is quite cool, So I got nice pay rise. Now looking back in tech, it's not a pay rise, but it was good at the time, especially with tech. Got on the field, doing a lot of face-to-face stuff, which was quite interesting. Meeting transport managers at like garages, truck shows and that kind of stuff, and just being like, Neil, you know who we are, but I know you've probably got a whole wallet full of fuel cards. What are you actually using right now? Oh, I'm using these. They're offering me 98.2 for diesel. Yeah, that's a good price. I was like, it's not a very sustainable price though, is it? Because right now fuel's costed, that's like cost price. So they're not making any money on you using that. And the guy would be laughing like, I know, Connor, but it's the game, isn't it? So it's like trying to the ways and like understanding different stuff and then giving them a bit of extra value. And it was great. And then I got to it was at the turn of the year. So it would have been 2021, I think it would have been. I said to Marl, I was like, I've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years. I think there's more. I'm kind of burnt out of the fuel market. No pun intended. I'm just fucking burnt out. And I just thought, I want to find something different, but I don't know what to do. And in Stoke, we haven't got SaaS really. We haven't got software. There's Vodafone, Bet365, and Fuel. Like, they're the 3 big employers. They pay good money, but it's not like, I wanted to do something different. And then I reached out to a friend of mine, Keith, who's now actually lives in Dubai. He was in recruitment and introduced me into, he was like, well, yeah, you do sales. Like, this is like sales recruitment.
Yeah.
But I had to do the candidate side first, which I really didn't enjoy.
And just like to pause you there. So like, you had been living that life, like selling the fuel cards. You had gone up to like managing a pod within like sales leadership, right? And then you had this world of COVID and the pandemic coming about. You've just had your first child. Like you said, hazmats in the office, like you couldn't really do that. Because the reason I bring this up is my last guest that we came on, we started speaking about the world of COVID. And that person had literally like done other jobs, and then they like went for interviews, got the job, and then all of a sudden they went into lockdown and they got furloughed like for a long period of time. And it like working in the world of sales, like my experience was like I was a face-to-face sales trainer, and then it wasn't face-to-face anymore, and I had to turn into remote. And that's how I launched the podcast and all this. Like we had to adapt and change, but like you went through an element of reflection of, you had a bit of a breathing moment and think, is this where I want to be for the rest of my life, right? And then you panned into recruitment, because I've met a lot of people that work in tech that came from recruitment and then went into tech sales. But you said a key point here, said you were on the candidate side and you didn't really like that. But for the listeners that aren't aware of the world of recruitment, what does that mean, like the candidate side?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's more like the placement side of things, doing the headhunting, dealing with like giving the offers out, setting up them interviews, and really just getting them excited for the role. And I'm not sure about some of these listeners. I've definitely been one before, like candidates, or they don't tell the full picture. Oh yeah, I'm only speaking to you. I've only got one interview with you. I've got X, Y, Z in the back burner, and that's totally fine. But it's so frustrating. You bash your head against the wall a couple of times for it. But it's still, when I was able to hit my number, I was able to then do the BD side, which I really enjoyed. When I interviewed into recruitment, I remember my manager at the time, James, he was saying, like, when he was hiring me, my only concern is you've done sales for a long time. Bad habits, but you also obviously got that, you want to do the BD side. We don't do that here just yet. We want to make sure you get the recruitment before doing the BD, which some ways I kind of get, some ways also I find it a bit strange that I kind of put BDs at that burner, but it then gave me that exposure as well. And when I was BD, I loved it. It was so much more fun. And what opened my eyes during that time at Finley James was, these people I'm putting roles in, I was doing the same role I'm placing in Fuel, but their salaries were like double. And I was like, hey, fucking hell, like, like, why am I not doing that? Like, how can I get a SaaS software tech role
Yeah.
right now? Like, we used to commute 5 days a week to Manchester on like a very low salary. It was costing us loads on fuel, but Molly knew I wanted to do something different because it kind of went back to like when Ted's like growing up, what does your dad do? Oh, he sells fuel. That was kind of, I thought,
That was your thought. Yeah. I see. I hear it. Yeah.
what would we say it to his nursery lady? She was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. And like nothing against it, because it was a really good role. It's taught me a lot. So when I finally got on my feet, and there was a company I was hiring for, Thrive, placed a couple of SDRs in there. They then opened an office in Manchester. I actually got an interview from one of your old guests, Holly. She was
Holly Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sales at the time. And so she interviewed me, give me a bit of a grilling, like telling her, like, I don't think you understand what the SDR role is, because I kind of went,
Really?
I was like, I mean, I can do it. It's not, I can do it. I've done it for like 4 years, not as an SDR, I did full sales cycle, but then again, it wasn't tech. So then I went back and looked at myself, thought, I went in like, that's such a dick. Like, all sort of walked out, I've kind of got the job ready. Like, what an idiot. So obviously didn't get it. And then stuck at recruitment again for a couple more months. And then I landed it. She actually then, I think she went did something different, became like an AE somewhere. And a new head of sales came in and we just clicked like that. And if you see on LinkedIn, he was at he was at the SDR Awards that we went to at my sales conference a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Really good, really great guy. I learned a lot of things from him as well. Ways of pausing in cold calls, asking just them deep diving questions. Like we started, it was all about vanity bookings, just getting shitloads of meetings, but why are they not attending? Why not qualifying? Because you're booking shit. Like, so then it was like having better conversations, and we instantly just saw such a shift. Things were qualifying, things were closing. And like when I got that first closed one as a SaaS sale, I was like, it's mint. It was like, commission came in, I was like, bloody hell, this is nice.
And if I can pause you there, because there's so many things, Connor, that I want to unpack there, if that's all right with you. So like on that stint of recruitment, so obviously you was candidate side, then you was going into BD side, and you're doing really well in that, and you're seeing like the earning potential was double like what you was earning with fuel cards, right? So you started seeing this trajectory of extra cash coming on top, right? And I can remember myself of when I went from telesales, when I was working at RBO, I was like 18K a year. And then I went into my first tech role and like the base was 45K. I was like, bloody hell, bro. Like, what the hell? And I thought at that point that this was a scam company and this isn't real. And like, this is going to end at some point soon, bro. But like, you're going through those different earning levels. But I think what the cool thing is that you're experiencing it, because some people may just come out of uni and just jump straight into it and they haven't got anything to benchmark it against, right? And that's why a lot of people like, I used to teach my SDRs financial intelligence. Like when you start getting these big bumps in your paycheck, like what could you be doing with your money? Because like same way with me, I worked in London, Covent Garden. I was spending money every lunch break, bro. I was like going to like, Massimo Dutti and I was just like buying just these clothes and everything. But then somebody said, no, like put something in your pension, put something like, saving, like maybe invest into something. So that was a key thing for me. But you said something that really intrigued me was you were placing candidates in these SaaS companies. And you were then asking yourself, and as Molly said, you want to do something different. Why aren't you going for those sort of jobs? And I have met a lot of, I think I had a guest on this show once who used to work for Prime. I think they do like recruitment as well. And then she was placing candidates and she did like an SDR assessment day. And then she said to herself, why am I not doing that thing? So again, before we move on to the next topic, if a recruiter is listening to this podcast and they're thinking about taking the jump of going into tech, what advice would you give to them?
I'd tell them to seriously consider it. Like, think about, the companies you've been placing candidates for. You get to tell them, you tell your candidates, do the due diligence, like check like what they're doing, what the product is and that kind of stuff. And then really just throw yourself in and maybe have a few test interviews with people that, I'm not about time wasting, but there's going to be some roles where you can hit easy apply on LinkedIn, but you may get conversation. It's also sometimes good to help, just like kind of like role play it. You're never going to get that one interview, one hit wonder. And if you do, fair play, you must be a great candidate.
Yeah.
And like, that's great for you. But it's good to kind of have that and like really just think about it. And then if it doesn't pan out, like it's, you never know unless you don't know. Just jump straight in. Like, I just turned 29 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad I've had some of the experience in the past, and then like look back on, like, we're just obviously about to dive into it, thrive, like some mistakes that have happened, but again, they actually kind of shape you and make you a bit better anyway. So
Yeah,
I
I
just
love it.
go for it.
Thank you so much for sharing. And that's really juicy info because, again, not every now and then, but sometimes I get people hit me in DMs when they've worked in the world of recruitment and they're thinking about going because they can see the earning potential. But obviously, I think in the world of recruitment, what you're selling is candidates, or you're selling companies candidates, but now you're selling a product and a service to like decision makers. So you're kind of doing the same thing, but you're selling something different, right? But it's kind of a similar process. But then, as you mentioned, you went for an initial chat with Holly Allen, and she said, "Nah, not happening, bro. You haven't got this." So you took a step back, which is fine. But then you went for it again. Then you met that person that you learned a lot from, and you came into this company and you thrived at Thrive. And looking at it, your LinkedIn, it says voted number 2 UK SDR in 2023 at the Sales Confidence Awards.
Yeah.
But
Go through right here.
Oh, there we go. That's what I love to see, man. And like it says on your LinkedIn, you generated 514K of qualified pipeline. Awesome source. So, what was it? And you said you were booking shit, but then you doubled down on focusing on the quality conversation. So, what was that transformation like? Because as a former manager, I used to say to my teams, it used to sound contradictory, but I don't give a shit about you booking meetings. But I want you booking meetings that convert into closed ops and won deals. That's what I'm looking for. So, if we've got that newbie SDR that's booking high volume and perhaps things aren't converting as much, what did you learn and how did you get that mind shift, bro?
Well, I think what happened was when I joined with another lad and another SDR, joined a couple weeks after we did. So about 3 of us started together. And Faisal's first task was really to improve the output of the SDRs. How many meetings are they booking? So straight away, it became I'd be calling you, you'd be like, Con, I can't really speak right now, but I can speak maybe on the 28th of Jan. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll put a placeholder in. That's not a meeting. But we'd shout on the Slack, shout on the WhatsApp, meeting, but boom. It's great, but it's not a meeting. You can have a placeholder there and reach out closer to, and it was, the attitude was more about, let's just get holders in. Let's get holders in. Got holders in fresh. Yeah, so all that great businesses, but they're not in buying mode out. There's no real pain there or anything. So started to double down on quantifying the pain and actually qualifying these leads as if they were inbound. So you'd want to give the AE that. You'd want to sit that meeting instead of the meshing. Are they going to join? Is this worth my time? You don't have a bad relationship with AEs. It became really good where you get shout outs. We had HelloFresh came from a WhatsApp, from a LinkedIn voice note. And then, yeah, it was great. And she came out oh, Connor, I'm actually got to start looking at platforms now to replace who we look to leave. It actually wasn't even on my radar. What is Thrive? It's boom. We went down to the final 3, but I think we kind of missed out, but it still felt pretty cool anyway to even get it that far.
Yeah.
But then, fast forward a bit, it became really good and a lot of things were going really well. And then, you mentioned, I came second in the Sales Confidence Awards, which was pretty cool. It's just completely out of the blue. I never even heard of Sales Confidence before even go into that. I was I got a message from Faisal the day before my birthday. Connor, we're going to London next Wednesday. I was oh, are we? Yeah, you've been nominated for an award. I've got your train, got your ticket. Boom. Okay, great. And then won it. And then a couple of weeks later, actually about a month later, made a catastrophic error. It was bad. I used to have a really bad relationship with alcohol, very bad. Used to think that was my personality. Used to think I need this to be this guy that way. And I went way too far and said some very offensive, derogative, even slightly. Yeah, even I think I even said a few racial slurs while singing, rapping, or whatever. A lot of context behind it, but it got quite aggressive and quite nasty. It said it in front of the CEO, the founders, a lot of people heard. A lot of people were disgusted. I was disgusted when I found out in the morning what happened. I was that blackout drunk, and I just got kicked out of the party and went back to the hotel room. In the morning, woke up, bit of a sore head, as you can imagine. Call from Faisal, like, oh, hey, how you feeling? I was like, I feel a bit rough, mate. I'm on the way into the office. He was like, yeah, let's not do that. Then we got,
Well, the fear must have been going through you, bro.
beer fit was awful. And then, we got on like a Zoom call, and then he just laid it out to me. He was like, I've got to fire you, mate. I've got to cut you off. I was like, he was like he was relaying everything that happened. It was sick to my stomach. It was about a week before Christmas. It was kind of the worst time. But yeah, it hit hard. And obviously I didn't want to tell Molly, my fiance, didn't want to have that.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, how was the Christmas do? How was it? Well, I was like, yeah, it was right. And I just played it down. Then I obviously had to hide the fact that I was shipping my laptop back to the headquarters. Oh, where's your laptop going? They gave us a stupid excuse, we're getting new ones, so it's getting replaced. And that was a horrible, horrible time. And it was hard, very hard. And then I had a good couple months where I was like in limbo, really. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not working right now. I've got some good savings at the minute, but I need to do something. And then come clean to Molly about a month or so later, because she was like, you've not been to the office. I'm like, I told her, she was obviously really, really upset, very angry as well, as you can imagine. And then she just said, like, you need to get something straight away. So, not sure. I don't know if you know the market, Neil, when it's like January, February time, everyone's looking for a job or everyone's looking for SDRs. It's either one or the other. It's not both. And then I luckily landed on my feet at Q, which was kind of a lifesaver. It was a remote role, SDR, and just doing high volume outbound.
So, Connor, thank you very much for sharing. And that could have been, I can imagine it was a very scary point for you, with the alcohol, not being able to remember, having a blackout moment, having that chat with Faisal the next day. And then, you're a dad and you've got a partner and a kid to look after, and they're telling you you're done and the laptop's being shipped, and you're having to hide that for an element, right? And like, again, for full transparency, like, we're not all angels, right? And I had a very similar experience once at a software company. I'm not going to mention names or go too much, but the same thing sort of happened to me where, I feel very guilty for this. And this is a reason I'm bringing it up today as well. So thank you for sharing and helping me come out with this. But I was working for a software company, and there was like a party that we all had one place on an offsite. And when I drink, or when I did drink, and this stems from my music days, right? I would drink to excess. Because as an MC and a rapper, when I used to go do gigs, I would get free alcohol. And I could drink the equivalent of 4 people's worth of alcohol and be totally fine and perform and everything like that. But when it came to the world of sales and working in a professional setting, I had to be I wasn't mindful, and I would drink the same amount, thinking, yeah, if I can do it here, I can do it here. But apparently there was this one incident where we was at the staff party on the offsite, and there was another member of the team where either I was trying to flirt with them, but they had a partner. And apparently I became very dismissive and rude to both that person and the partner. And I remember having the drink with everyone like cheering, and then everything went black. And then I woke up in the room as the party was going on, sitting on a chair slumped, and just like going to myself, like, where am I? So what had happened was I was at the party, I was drinking. From the moment of drinking, I then blacked out and didn't remember nothing. And I was still at the party when I woke up like an hour or two later. I remember getting up, just feeling a bit more refreshed, and then going around people, and everybody just gave me the dirtiest look I'd ever seen. And I was kind of like, what's your problem? But kind of the response to that was like, no, what is your problem? I think you need to go home. And I was like, anyway, went back to the hotel room and then woke up the next morning. And then my VP came to me and said, bro, we need to have a chat. And I was just like, what? He says, do you remember what you said to such and such? And I was just like, no. And when it was relayed back to me, I was like, that's not me. I don't do that.
Yeah. So.
But obviously I did. Right. And they kind of said to me, like, we can just squash this and just like forget about it now. But when we get back, we need to have a bit of a chat and you need to be very careful. And at that point, I asked them, like the VP, can I talk to those 2 individuals? Right. They didn't want to talk to me. Which is understandable, right? But later down the line, like a week or 2 later, they allowed me to sit down with them both, and I profusely apologized for my behavior. And the fact that I tried to chat somebody up and then cuss their partner in front of them, bro, Neil, what the hell were you doing, man?
Yes.
But from that point on, I'm very lucky they did forgive me and they were very understanding. And it was a stark awakening for me that, like, bro, you could lose your livelihood because of this shit. So that's where from many years ago, I've made a conscious effort that I don't drink with work people. Right? From that lesson, it scared the bejesus out of me that I would never do it again. So when I have been, to team meetings or offsites or like stuff with, clients, they're like, Neil, what do you want to drink? I'm like, I don't drink. But this year, I'm almost coming up to a year of being sober and not having any alcohol whatsoever. It wasn't the sober wasn't because of that thing. The sober thing was because I was reflecting on life and it just didn't do nothing for me. So I don't like drinking anymore. But that incident is what scarred me, bro. And that's why I wouldn't, because even in my music days, I would have those examples told back to me the next morning. And it's like, you said a magic word, the beer fear. I've never heard that one. I've heard the heebie-jeebies and like the Sunday scaries or the Monday morning, but yeah, but it happens, right? And it's not excusable. And again, I'm very sorry. And if those people ever listen to this, like, that was a different Neil. That was in my early 30s, right? But you said you had a saving grace, which was Q, which helped you out, right? My saving grace was they forgave me. And, I went on to my next client after that. But like, how did Q come to the rescue? How did it queue up in your life?
You actually did because, like I mentioned, it was such a bad ending at Thrive. But then Josh, our CSO, he reached out to me and was like, Connor, you're a fucking sick SDR. Like, you're a really good SDR. We hate that we've had to do this. Like, and obviously in that time I was really apologetic and just fucking hating myself. And like, that's not me. I'm not like that. I can never focus on that, but I would never mean anything. He was like, these guys are hiring. He was like, I want to put you forward for this guy. They're one of the competitors at Thrive. But they were growing an SDR team. But they wanted to be in London 2 days a week, so it didn't work out. But then he was connected with a guy that was my then CEO at Q. Right, was like, speak to this guy. And obviously I had a really good conversation with him, and it looked like it really just in sync. It went really well. Yeah, I enjoyed my time at Q. It was fully remote. We had an SDR team all across the UK. Well, we had 3 SDRs. But the platform itself, I don't want to slam it. It just probably wasn't ready for the UK market. It was doing great in South Africa. During that time, I was able to kind of just get my mojo back in sales. Like, I felt more confident again. Went away with Molly and the kids. I was able to just felt more like myself again, like, as a confident in sales again, being a bit more deliberate as well. I didn't go for drinks for them. Like, we met in London a couple of times at Q. I did exactly what you did, it seems. Just didn't drink. I was like, I've driven to this train station. I don't want to have a beer. And you're like, oh yeah, that's fine, not a problem. But actually, I was fucking shitting it that I just don't know when to stop. Because I love a pint. I've kind of gone off my love of beers over the last sort of probably 6 months. That's when it stabbed it. But realistically, I've always enjoyed a good pint. But then, I was kind of loving. So I'd been at Q for about 6 months. I was doing really well, but we were talked differently there. It was just talked on meetings attended. So you could get 50 quid a meeting attended. So you could make about 500 quid minimum commission every month if you're booking, more than 10 meetings at SaaS, which, it's good money, but you feel like you want to be a bit more involved in the sales process, in the sales cycle. Like, how many of these closing? I don't care. I've got my commission. So it's wash my hands and see you later. Then Jazz, my ex-head of sales at Willow, reached out to me. I want to grow an outbound team. We briefly met at the Sales Confidence Awards. And again, I was drunk at that. I don't remember meeting at that night. It was me. Good. And we obviously were local. And then, so I had a chat with her, really good. And it was back in the HR talent space that I've been selling into at Thrive. I was like, yeah, this seems good. Went in, built out the function, which has been really good, really exciting. And got some quick success. Like, we met with Heineken, Chelsea FC. Not a Chelsea fan, but it's still pretty good getting a football team.
Yeah.
What would your football? And like stuff like that was like, okay, the wheels of motion here. Like, they'd never outbound before. And our the founder, Woody, was a big fan of enjoying getting these big logos in front, like Willow in front of them. And then turn of the year, we grew the team. So then I had 3 lads reporting to me. I was like BDR manager, which felt really cool. During that whole time between September to December, I've not had a drink with a pal. I even decided to leave the Christmas party early last December. Like I did the meeting and then just fucked off. It was booked on Ted's birthday, to be fair. So we're going to go for a piss up on Ted's birthday. She just went, I came for a team meeting, showed my face and just went. They were a bit upset and a bit confused. Oh, did you not want to party with us? Honestly, you don't know why, but they do know now why. Because we had a skiing trip in March, which is an unbelievable experience. And I was on a very long chairlift with our CEO, just me and him. This chairlift felt like an eternity. And it just fucking went on. And he wanted to know, he was like, kind of like, it's good seeing you've like kind of let your hair down this week. Like, obviously, it was a shame we didn't see it at the Christmas party that much because he's based in Glasgow. I just seem like I've got a really bad relationship with alcohol at work. I didn't want to fuck up my role here, bringing the old self out. Like, I've got self-control, but I just didn't want to put myself in that scenario again. Fucking hell. I was able to let my hair down with a few beers at the après, which was good. Felt nice. It made skiing down the mountain at the end of the day fucking very hard. And then after that trip, it kind of went a bit shit. My leadership style was very questionable. I was very much more pally with them than leading. I was really hot on KPIs and that kind of stuff because I hated being micromanaging back in the day.
Yeah.
But then I was like, hang on. I'm well ahead doing my meeting spots and that, but the team aren't. Fuck, I need to now kind of reverse back and not be the pal, not be the mates, which is very difficult. And then unfortunately, we dismantled the BDR team. Felt really guilty for it. I had a good tough couple of weeks where I felt really, really down and really depressed about it. Like thinking, that was me. I've not led these guys right. I've failed these guys. One lad, bless him, he got promoted to AE, so that was a kind of like silver lining of that. But with the two lads, I felt like such just a dick. Like I could have helped you guys more or fought your case. And then the last 6 months have been a bit different, and like now we're here. So it's been an exciting journey, Neil, but it's been a fucking weird one at times as well.
And I love the honesty, Con, and thank you so much for being honest and sharing these insights, because I think there are a couple of sections that I would love to bring into the episode today, and if you're comfortable to do so. But I'm going to preface this by saying, everybody has a choice in what they do, and this isn't coming off as like a preach. This is just coming from a place of experience, right? And talking about alcohol, substances in the world and ecosystem themselves, because I know it happens, right? But it's not something I've really discussed openly before on this show. But I do think it is something to bring into, just like, not so much as a warning, but something to be mindful of, right? If I kind of see it from my perspective as to what I've seen over the years, like in the last decade and a half, because let me put it to you this way, dude. When you were earning like that 18K, and then you're going through different waves and hitting higher ceilings of earning, it brings you into different social circles and the way that people celebrate within those circles. And I saw that, going from telesales to working in my startup, like when we smashed the quarter or, smashed the year, I had our VP or of EMEA bringing out bottles of Dom Perignon at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, like pouring everybody a glass. And for me, back then when Neil was drinking, Neil had this rule of you don't drink or do anything until the sun's gone down. In other words, you've done your job and responsibilities. You can do that before bed. So but it was like, if you didn't do it, you felt like an outsider to it. And then, many a time when I was working as that BDR role, my team said like, Neil, you need to come out with us to socialize. And I lived with my parents at that point, right? And they're God-fearing Muslim people that don't drink, right? But for me, it was a little bit fearful because we'd finish work at 5 and then we'd go into Covent Garden where we'd go for a restaurant, and then you'd see like a Stella come out. Then you'd see more beers coming out, and then it turned into a JD. And there were many times, and I had many funny experiences of getting fucked up with them, but it felt like I had to do it. And if I was the guy that said, "Oh, I need to go home because I need to be home by a certain time and I've got work in the morning, I've got leads to call," and I'm like, "No, man, you need to social." There was this pressure to socialize. And I think over the years, going into other companies where I would see, some people taking substances, it would happen. And when I'm not saying I'm an angel here, right? I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm not an angel, but seeing some people getting caught up in that shit, they would always want to go out for drinks. They'd always want to go to the toilet. They'd always want to do this. And, sometimes I was privy to some of that sort of stuff. I'm not going to lie. But sometimes when I come in as a coach or as when I was a manager and I'd see these new people that come out of uni or they'd working in a different industry and coming into tech, and they felt that pressure that they had to be part of the party. And when I see people like going out for drinks and stuff like that, there's a part of Neil that sits like, bro, I don't want to go down that road because I've been there and I know it goes. But at the same time, I can't be too preachy to people, But I think the other thing that I want to bring in is because, as mentioned, I've been nearly sober for a year. And when I say sober, I'm not saying I had a problem with alcohol. I wasn't an alcoholic. I just made a choice of I don't want to drink alcohol anymore. Somebody on my LinkedIn that I was prospecting the other day, they're like a head of sales, said, are you looking for any coaching? He came and said, no, we're all cool on coaching. But he did say, I've been seeing your LinkedIn post about your sobriety journey. And I just wanted to say, well done, mate. And I was like, oh, cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. But he then kind of said, he said, I've been 5 years sober myself, Neil. And drink always used to take me to substances and it cost me my family, almost cost me my career. But I just wanted to say, keep going, mate. And that kind of touched me. And I was like, yeah. And I think it's one of those things that's a taboo in sales. Like it happens, but we don't obviously we're not going to talk about it on LinkedIn. We're not going to put out a post and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you from your point of view, like you've been through experiences, you've had the fuck ups. We've both had the fuck ups. But what kind of like advice would you give to that newbie that's coming to sales where, they're asked to go out on the Friday after work or, they're privy to like being brought into the inner sanctum circles. Any advice for them, dude?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Like you want to, like when you join a business, depending on where you are in your career, where you are in like your personal self, do you care about joining and fitting in? So you don't want to be the outsider, but also then you feel like you're probably told, aren't you, by people above you, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
I want to be in that circle. I want to be around them people. But then I don't want to fucking go down to the bathroom and have keys at beak. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't absolutely. Yeah. But then I don't also want to be looked at, you're not boring. You still work, you're not play. It's such a difficult thing to be. I think it's more just being confident in yourself and being able to say no. I mean, look, I'm not boring. Like I've had two. I don't want to have another one. I'm driving. Fine, enough. Like, that's sound. But I'm an alcohol-free one. They don't have to see it. Like, so many times I've just ordered lemonade. Oh, it's a vodka mixer. Sound. So they're not going to none the wiser. Just a lemonade in a straight glass. They don't check. But it's so difficult. I think it depends literally like when you just ask that, Neil, where they are in their career. If they're 18 to 21, it's so difficult. If you're like, I'm 29 now. If someone asks me to go for a pint, I'm not feeling it. Well, I'll go on the pub with you if you want to chat.
Yeah.
Then I'll happily listen to you, mate, but I'm not drinking today.
Yeah. And thank you for the advice. And I agree with you. Like, I've kind of learnt this in recent years. Well, whereas before when somebody said, oh, do you want to go for a drink? I said, oh, I'm not drinking today. Or, oh, I've got something tomorrow like that. What that implies to people is it's like an objection handling sort of thing. You hit with the objection and they're trying to get you and convince you to go the other way. But I've learned a way to shut down the conversation is I don't drink. And they're like, okay. And it kind of stops them there and then versus, oh, I'm not drinking today. I don't drink, cuts the conversation. And that's helped me a lot. And I think what's really surprising for me is with going on this sobriety journey, I've now got to the point where just drink doesn't even come to my head. Like I have no need or want to go to a pub and a lot of my friends, there are two sides of this. Like some friends are like, oh, Neil, do you want to come to the pub? But are you okay with that? Because I know you're on your sober journey. And I'm like, no, cool, bro, I'm cool. Like, I can go to a pub and not have a drink. It's fine. But I appreciate where that's coming from. Then the other side of the side of this is that I've got others like, oh, Neil, mate, almost, like, well done. But, it's almost Christmas, bro. Like, let's go to the pub. Like, you're going to have a cheeky drink there? And I'm just like, no, I don't drink. But trying to convince me to drink. And I'm like, no. And it's that pressure. But like you said, being confident in yourself to kind of say no. And I think the whole thing of fitting in and like when you're younger, because I've seen it like when I've worked with different teams and there are younger SDRs in their early 20s and they've had a couple of drinks on a team outing and I see that glazed look on their eyes and I'm like, yeah, I know where you are, bro. But I've kind of got to this thing where I can go to an event and if people are drinking, I'm not uncomfortable with it. But the moment I see the glaze over that person's eye, I say to myself, it's time for me to go home. Because sometimes, here's the other thing, where we both have said, oh, that's not me, when we're told about those drunk experiences, actually that is. It's our subconscious that doesn't come out, and where our normal face and mind keeps that side of ourselves, not for the general public. But what I don't like is when somebody's had a drink and they become cocky and confident and they really tell you about why they don't like you. And I've been in those scenarios.
Yeah.
So if we get on at work and you get a bit wasted and you tell me how much of a mug and you don't like the way I do, I'd rather not hear that. So that's a signal to me that when I see a glazed eye or I hear a slur, and especially something that icks me out is when people drink red wine, you can see their teeth go a different color, and you see it on their lips, and I'm like, yeah, bro, breath reeks. I'm going home. Lovely to see you. Hope everybody has a good time. And then normally what I'd find is when I'd go back home and you come back online the next day, you get us like, such and such was messed up. And I'm so glad I'm not that person. But thank you for helping me open up this conversation. And for anybody out there, if you've gone through these sort of experiences, if you want to reach out, ask for tips or anything like that. Again, this isn't preaching. It's just experiences of fucking up.
Yeah.
And sharing it. But the other side that I wanted to ask was, you was coming back into the world of selling towards HR, and you're at Willow and, you're getting help from Jazz. A question that I would love to ask you, and this is coming from a place of somebody who's a sales coach and a sales trainer. So historically, I used to work with recruiters to build SDR teams, and you're somebody that's built an SDR team. And I used to get a little bit annoyed with recruiters when my VP of sales would say, Neil, you need to get X amount of headcount. I'm like, cool. And he says, you need to work with a recruiter. And the recruiter could find the SDR candidates, but they could never find the DNA, or they could never explain the role to the SDR because that recruiter doesn't work in that world. And similarly with HR, when we was trying to get a candidate signed, they were like, so why are you offering this commission, that commission? And I kind of came to this conclusion of, you're the recruiter, but you don't really know what it is to be the SDR day to day. And the HR person, when we're trying to get this contract signed, you don't understand like the MBOs, the commercials, the KPIs, and how it's all built. They don't have like the context because they work in their respective departments. And I had this one example where I was trying to hire, like for 3 months, I was trying to hire and build out a team in Amsterdam. And the head of sales just kept rejecting every candidate I put forward, but they kept accepting everybody that the recruiter put forward. And the people that got hired because of the recruiter and the head of sales liking eventually got fired out of probation because they just couldn't perform. But the people that I hired somehow passed probation and got through. So where am I getting to at this point is, what advice would you give to like my advice would be to HR recruiters, sit down with that head of sales development, like see what it is like for a day as an SDR, like get a bit of context. Here's an SDR playbook. This is how they work. This is how they pass probation. What advice would you give to maybe the HR and like the recruiters out there? Because you've been the recruiter and you've gone into SDR life. Yeah. What would you say to them?
I think literally what you just said there, Neil, like just spend a day, spend a few hours, different times of the day, what that SDR lead does, what the SDRs do. Like some is so different, like some SDRs, like some teams are run tailored messaging, very heavy email, heavy LinkedIn. They will do calls as well. I've always run the preset, just cold call. Like I don't want to do loads of emails, to be honest. Yeah, we get a few people in speaking to our sales team a lot lately, and they've been asking me, I can't look to your HubSpot. You don't send a lot of emails, do you? But you do calls. I'm like, yeah, correct. Because my first sales manager when I worked back at Radius said, you don't sell an email. Like, spoke to that prospect, he spoke to ex-haulage. Yeah, he's responded to my email. They just like, so you haven't then. And it's, the whole office would just laugh and be like, fuck, okay, yep. And I've taken that small bit of grilling, but quite useful help, and just using that. It's so true. Just get on the phone. Like, I'm not discrediting emails. There's definitely some good emails out there, but for me, I've just never really bothered. So feedback to give to these recruiters and HR people is, understand what they're doing, what are their day to day. And you can ask them straight on the phone, like, Neil, appreciate you looking for this role. You could be a good fit. What's your opinion on cold calling? How many would you say you do in a day? Oh, I do about 50 a day. Okay. Looking at that KPIs, the team are doing probably 80 plus. Some days it might be less if they've got a lot of meetings on. Is that too much for yourself, or would you rather be doing elsewhere? Actually, I like doing a lot of emails. Okay, that's great. You might be a good fit for something else. Probably not for what they're doing here. And that's really, it's just understanding, because there's not one shape fits all. There isn't for SDRing.
Yeah.
I mentioned Holly already. And like, there's some great guys on LinkedIn that they get so much work from LinkedIn leads and like emails they do. Fair play to them. I've all got my meetings. I booked 7 this week in a short week, all from cold calls. I just enjoy doing that. It's just easier. So yeah, that'd be my feed. That'd be my advice. If it's sort of hidden in there, just cold.
Yeah. No, I love it. And you're right. There isn't a one size fits all, and everybody has different ways to success. Like for me, cold calling isn't my thing, right? I hosted a power hour helping SDRs, and I help people with scripts and all the stuff like that. But my favorite channel is LinkedIn, DMs and videos and voice notes. And funny enough, I taught Holly Hallen how to do videos and voice notes, and she's been successful in it. But I think another thing to add on for any HR personas or recruiters that are locked in for today's show, something that really helped us when I was trying to hire that team is I created what we called an open day. So with the recruiters, we found a whole bunch of like people on LinkedIn that could be the potential role, and we invited them to an open day. And most open days that I went to, Connor, were just selling about the company and what they do. And here's your opportunity to work with us and build your career. But what I actually did was 20% of the open day was that. Why does this company exist? What's the story behind it? But then I gave them like a 101 on what is SDR life about. So I said, coming into an SDR, this is what it means to be an SDR. Here's an outbound. Here's an inbound. This is typically the way that they reach out to people through prospecting, emailing. What normally happens after the first 12 months of being an SDR, and then saying, there are 4 different roles you could go in after. You could be an AE, you go into CS, you can go into marketing, you can go into product. And then I kind of gave my story of, 10, 15 years of working in tech sales and all the different jobs that I've been in. And here's the funniest thing. Our recruiter and the head of sales tried 3 months to hire, got nobody. Within that open day, I hired 7 people, and all of them stayed and passed their probation. So I think, but here was the opportunity that we got the recruiter in. And at the end of the day, and love to Rose, that recruiter that I worked with, we've got a really strong relationship. She just said, I didn't know SDR did all this shit. I just thought they booked meetings. It was that preconception of what is an SDR. And I think having that bit of knowledge then helps them hire and find the right people for that role once you know what that job entails. And it was the same way with my SDRs.
Rose's opinion is probably similar to mine when I walked into that interview with Thrive, first of all. I fucking know what the role is. It's not that hard. And they were like, well, I think like there's a lot more to it.
Than just booking meetings. Yeah. But I think the other side was, like the point that I made with my SDRs when I was a manager, the first week of onboarding was not learning about our product and not watching demos and not sitting with salespeople. The task was they actually had to go meet the head of every department in our company, from sales, customer success, marketing, engineering. And what I tasked them to do is every time they met with a leader, to ask them what was their story, what is the department's goals, and how does that department work with sales, and what's the relationship like? And it did 2 things. One, it gave a little bit of inspiration to the SDR, because I was actually doing a dad thing of you could have your career there if you like the sound of that. It was giving a little bit of inspiration. But secondly, it built a relationship, because some SDRs or salespeople come in, they just talk to salespeople and they just stay in their bubble. But, to really be successful in sales or in companies is to be able to talk into different departments and have those relationships, because those people are going to help you out with deals. What is it going to be looking like once they sign the order? What does the customer success onboarding look like, right? Or with marketing, what campaigns can we do to build pipe and all of this stuff? I'm going on a rant because one of my biggest blockers are HR and sometimes recruiters when I'm trying to come in to deals with happy settings. So this is coming from a bit of a selfish point. But this has been a beautiful chapter. I've learned a hell of a lot. You've helped us share a lot of good insights and learnings for people out there. So thank you so much for coming on board. And the question that I would like to ask is, if you could go back to that young guy that was working in Superdry before he stopped the thief, right? And he's about to embark on this career of sales.
Not the thief now.
Yeah. What 3 bits of advice would you give to that young Connor Grimes?
First bit would be ask as many questions. Like, I said, I went to that first SDR interview. Like, I already knew everything. Like, you don't know anything. Research, man. And again, and it also goes back to when I was a Radius. Like, until I spoke to the guys that I was become friends with, I would have carried on fucking ringing hairdressers and pet shops, trying to get. So it'd be that, just asking questions and building them relationships. The second one, 100% would be, don't get into that place again with like the alcohol. 100%, it's not don't drink. It's more just know and
your limits.
very self-aware. Like, yeah, that was a horrible experience. And, it's cost some friendships, it has. And then the third one, I think, would be don't hear all the noise that you see on like LinkedIn. Like, I commented on a post yesterday actually about like, they don't always have like a linear career. It just never happens like that anymore. Like, you have to try different things. If things don't work out, don't hide away from it. It's like, it's a learning experience. Like, just keep, you're going to get to that North Star, wherever it is. And like, for me back in the day, I thought it was because I didn't want Ted to go and tell all his friends at school, "Oh, Dad sells fuel." Like, now it's all Dad sells tech. Like, it's not that much fun. So Maya just also just call people and just tell. So my youngest just thinks it's Daddy just phones people all the time, which is great. But it's more just like, if you enjoy what you're doing and you're passionate about it. Like, for me, I'm passionate about cold calling outbounding. Just do that.
Love that. Thank you so much, Connor. Great lessons and nuggets of wisdom there. And are there any shout outs or kudos that you'd like to give out on today's show?
Yeah, I've got quite a few. Big shout outs to all my friends, my close people that I work with, Ed and George, the lads at Willow, they've just hit target again. Josh, lad I promoted to AE. Oh, well, 3 lads are doing really well. Jazz, ex-head of sales, Woody. And even, my old managers, Dunning, Carl from Radius back in the day, and Faisal as well. Even though I appreciate our relationship kind of filtered because of my Thrive issue. Still a lot of respect for the guy. He has taught me a lot.
My bro, thank you very much. And a big thank you to all of our listeners and watchers today for joining us on Connor's chapter on the SDR DiscoCall Show. What I'm also going to say is, with a couple of the topics that we've spoken about today, if it has, touched you in a certain way or perhaps got you thinking about things, I'm going to be putting some links for support on some of the topics that we've discussed today within the show notes. So feel free to check them out as well. But again, if you're listening to this in your local podcast platform, please make sure that you give us a rating and share this with somebody that you think could benefit from listening to this episode. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Perhaps you've got a question for Connor, or perhaps you've got some feedback of your own experiences. Please let us know down in below. But Connor, as always, it's a pleasure to connect with you, dude, from one sales dad to another. Thank you for being on the chapter today, and I wish you an awesome weekend, my bro, and happy selling.
Awesome. Cheers, Neil. Have a good one.